Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Johnny Talk Sports. Now, before I begin, I got a couple of announcements to make. Number one, last week I finally reached the goal of 500 subscribers. It's just an unreal feeling. It's really just an accomplishment of its own. I completely didn't get this on my own. It was the loyal people from the beginning, kind of the casual viewers that view every once in a while, but maybe not every week, and the constant shares and the likes and the comments. So I appreciate all of you, no matter whether you've watched from the beginning or if you've just watched casually throughout the year or if you come on from time to time. It really means a lot. Now, what the most famous YouTubers do when they kind of reach a milestone is they do kind of a Q&A where they basically have their fans ask questions, like maybe about personal things or maybe about sports, which you can still do with me, or like about like movies or books or TV shows and stuff. Or I mean, we can try it, but it depends on how many questions I'm gonna necessarily get. So we can try that. If you want to ask me something, if it's about sports or if it's about like movies or like TV shows or anything, yeah, sure, go ahead and ask them. But I just don't know how many we're gonna necessarily get. So go ahead and just leave your question down below, and I'll probably answer them like in a future video or something. Or if we get a bunch, maybe we'll make an entire video just on it. And also, happy birthday to Josh Chesler. I really hope you're watching this week, as you were telling me that you were really anticipating this video this week. So this one's for you, dog. Alright, now, the best weekend of the season so far. Half of the top 10 was in trouble. It's just going to take a long time to recap all this, so I'm going to try to do it as really fast as I can, as we got a bunch of stuff to cover today. We've got the Week 11 recap. We also have the playoff picture and the Week 12 predictions. So, of course, number one out. Let's set the scene, though. We've got Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington. Those top four. All undefeated. Let's kind of start off at kind of where Cultural kicked off at noon Eastern time. Alabama just rolled over Mississippi State. I mean, it wasn't even a ball game. Many thought Mississippi State could have a chance in this one based on how they played last against Texas A&M. But it was just no contest, as it's proven you cannot run on this Alabama defense, as they just clobbered at Mississippi State 51-3. Alright, next one. Penn State survives a scare from Indiana. I mean, sure, the final score was the margin of victory was 14 points, but it was way closer than that. And Indiana had the chances to win the game, but they just couldn't execute. They had turnover after turnover after turnover. However, their defense kept them in the game, as they only allowed 7 points off turnovers. Because, to be honest with you, road games in the Big Ten November, they're trap games waiting to be happened. Alright, so once we get to the 2:30 time slot, the midpoint of the college football day, Georgia upsets Auburn 13-7. Shout out to whatever to watch or watch whatever the title of that channel is. He called Georgia upsetting Auburn, because I didn't expect it, because I thought Auburn was really going to give Alabama a run for the money. They could spoil Alabama's chance of an undefeated season. However, the difference in the game was a Sean White pick six at the start of the second half. So the score really could have been 7-6 Auburn. But instead, Georgia's defense just really rose to the occasion in the second half, allowing 0 first downs in the second half. That's just an impressive statistic. So down went Auburn. This is what started the whole thing. Just the whole chaos. Pittsburgh upsets Clemson 43-42. Deshaun Watson did throw 580 passing yards though, but he threw 3 interceptions. However, the turning point in the game, because I did say Pittsburgh could have the potential to win the game as they were really capable of winning, but I didn't expect it to happen. But the turning point in that game could have been if they didn't overturn the Wayne Gallum touchdown. If they didn't overturn that, it would have been possibly 21-7 Pittsburgh in the first quarter, and that would have just really silenced Death Valley. And Clemson has just been topsy-turvy all year long. I mean, they had a one-possession game against Troy, one-possession game against NC State, both those at home, and now they've lost to Pittsburgh at home. So Clemson's just been really shaky all year. Many think Clemson should have 2 or 3 losses by now at this point. But right now, Clemson should be lucky to potentially still have a shot at the playoff. In fact, I did ask you yesterday whether or not Clemson's playoff hopes were gashed. Let's kind of see how that poll's going right now. It's just unreal that, alright, out of the 13 votes, 69% of you said yes, their playoff chances are dashed. And 31% said no. This is 13 votes. We're going to get to this. We're going to get to the Twitter polls a little bit later. But then, after that, USC just upsets Washington. It wasn't even a ball game. USC just looked dominant from start to finish. 26-30 victory over number 4 Washington on the road. Adoree Jackson had 2 interceptions. What really was a major turning point was the blocked field goal by USC in the third quarter, which could have been a 1-point game. Instead, it was blocked, and it led to a USC touchdown, which gave them all the momentum in the world. And what sealed it was Adoree Jackson's second interception. So not only does this kill Jake Browning's Heisman chances, although I did say he is the most underrated quarterback in college football, and I still do believe that, it's just that people are thinking he's overrated just because he doesn't play enough teams. I just feel like USC was going to come out and just be ready to play this game, as USC is the most unpredictable team in college football. I mean, one week they can just come out and just lose like 52-6. The next week they can just come out and dominate an opponent from start to finish. That's what we saw to USC last year when they upset number 3 Utah on the road. They just dominated from start to finish. But now USC is riding a big winning streak. And they have the potential to win out and get to a decent bowl game. They can still win 10 games this year, which wouldn't be too bad under new head coach Clay Helton. All right. Ole Miss upsets number 8 Texas A&M. I told you guys that was going to happen. Because honestly, from a Texan fan standpoint, if they want to win a national championship, it will not be in the Kevin Sumlin era. I was just raving on last year about how much of a horrible coach he is and how much they should have got rid of him last year. Honestly, half the A&M fans I could agree that he needs to go. I mean, they need to go while there's coaches on the market. Like Les Miles is on the market right now. Tom Herman probably will be on the market. Charlie Strong will probably be on the market. Maybe even convince Coach Petrino at Louisville. See, there is just good coach on the market this year. So they got to just target someone while they have a chance. Maybe even Brian Kelly. Honestly, I'll take any of those coaches at this point, over Kevin Sumlin. Because really, Kevin Sumlin's, the only reason why he's still there is because of Johnny Manziel. If it wasn't for Johnny Manziel, if he didn't make the decision to start him in the 2012 season, Texas A&M was the laughingstock of the SEC. I mean, it's just not even a question. I'll get to that a little bit later. And finally, Iowa upset number 3 Michigan in a low-scoring game, which I kind of anticipated. It could be a low-scoring game because those Big Ten games are a little bit trouble. But also, I did think that the experience of Michigan was going to just overpower Iowa. But I did say a couple of weeks ago that Michigan going into Iowa in primetime, that was a trap game waiting to happen. And I was kind of right. But I just should have predicted it. I mean, Clemson, Michigan, and Washington all had trap games this week. And they all lost those trap games. So let's kind of look into the playoff picture real quick. Of course, number 1, we have Alabama. And there are a bunch of one-loss teams. So I kind of rank these in order by how good these one-loss teams are. There might be some questions about it, but we will find out. Alright, I think Ohio State is the best one-loss team in college football. Because really, Ohio State is just a special teams blunder away. Or a non-special teams blunder away from being undefeated. And then people think that Ohio State is the only team that can beat Alabama, that can take Alabama off of their dynasty of the kings of college football. Number 3, I have Louisville. Yes, they struggled against Wake Forest. They were down 12-3 at the half. But the turning point in that one was Wake Forest just deciding to go for it on 4th and 9 when they could have just kicked a field goal to go up by 12. Or they could have just punted it because they basically gave Lamar Jackson and Louisville hope, and it ended up resulting in 44 unanswered points. Number 4, I got Clemson. 5, Michigan. 6, Washington. 7, West Virginia. Those are kind of what I think is the best team to the worst one-loss team. I think West Virginia is the worst one-loss team because I just think the Big 12 is just overlooked by offense. It's just a lack of defense. I honestly think Washington could beat West Virginia in a head-to-head matchup right now. We will take care of that soon. There are several two-loss teams still in the hunt. Wisconsin, the best two-loss team in college football. Penn State, the second best one. Then Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Utah. Now, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State will play each other at the end of the year. Whether if it's for a spot in the college football playoff, or whether if it's for a spot in the Fiesta Bowl. Or maybe in the Sugar Bowl. Number 12, I have Utah just barely hanging on by just a tiny little thread. Kind of depends on what happens with these other two-loss teams, some of the one-loss teams. Like, if you're a fan of Utah, you're probably rooting for some upset. You're rooting for Ohio State to get upset by Michigan State. You're rooting for Louisville to get upset by Houston. You're rooting for Indiana to upset Michigan. You're rooting for ASU to upset Washington. And you're kind of rooting for West Virginia to lose at some point. I think you'd be better off with Oklahoma beating West Virginia this week if you're Utah. Because I think, based on the percentages of these two losses making the playoff, I think Wisconsin has the best chance. I mean, they're in the driver's seat to win the Big Ten. Right now, as long as Wisconsin takes care of business so they win out, they're in, no doubt. Penn State, you got to win out as well. Oklahoma State, those two are just the last hope, or they may think it's the last hope for the Big 12. But West Virginia's still up there too. But Utah making the playoff, I would give it less than 1%. I mean, I'm just sorry, Utes fans. But if you would have beat Washington, you are undoubtedly in the conversation. If you did not lose to California, you're in the conversation. So obviously there is some elimination games this week. Theoretically, West Virginia and Oklahoma play each other. That's an elimination game for playoff contention. Let's see. Louisville and Houston could have been an elimination game, but Houston's just been stinking it up lately. Just a bunch of teams are still in trouble. It's November. Nobody's safe. No team's immune. Not even Alabama's immune. Auburn can still pull off the upset next week. So let's get to some coaches on the hot seat real quick. At the beginning of the year, the following coach was probably on the hot seat. Mike Riley for Nebraska was definitely on the hot seat. Dana Holgorsen was on the hot seat for West Virginia. Kevin Sumlin was definitely on the hot seat for Texas A&M. Charlie Strong was. Les Miles was, but now he is fired. And I think that's it. Those 5 are the major coaches. Well, Brian Kelly's down the hot seat, but he wasn't beginning the year. In fact, I was one of those people that thought Notre Dame could make the playoff if they win at least 11-1. Well, Notre Dame's probably not going to make it to a bowl game. But Notre Dame still has a lot to play for. This is just to salvage a season for Notre Dame and probably save Brian Kelly's job. That's basically what the rest of the Notre Dame season is. At the end of the day, I do think that at least Kevin Sumlin will be gone. In fact, Kevin Sumlin should be gone. I think he should be, because Texas A&M should have been at least 11-1 or 10-2 this year. Now the best they can do is just 9-3. Sure, they can still get a 10-win season going, but it's highly doubtful at this point. I mean, they're playing some FBS school this week, or FCS school this week. And LSU. I mean, maybe they can get a 10-win season in there, but I don't know. I think if Texas A&M loses to LSU, I think that's the end of the road for Kevin Sumlin. And I'm saying it depends on how bad they lose. I think Charlie Strong's going to be gone as well. I definitely think Brian Kelly will be. I think there's a good chance he will, depending on what happens the rest of the year. And I think that is it. As I said, Dan Mullen from Mississippi State's going to get a pass. Hugh Freeze here probably will get a pass as well. But those two should be on the hot seat for next year. Anyway, let's get to the Week 12 college football predictions. Let's start the big Thursday night game, Louisville in Houston. I mean, if Houston was still undefeated, this would just be the game of the year. Anyway, Lamar Jackson, the undoubted Heisman frontrunner, going up against Greg Ward. I'm looking forward to this matchup all year long. And we are starting off Week 12 with a major upset. I've got Houston upsetting Louisville. I just think this is going to be a shootout. I think Louisville starts off really slow again this week. But unlike Wake Forest, Houston can take advantage and score touchdowns. I like Greg Ward to have a huge night. I mean, that crowd is just going to storm the field at the end of the game. I like Houston to pull off the upset 48-45. I think Lamar Jackson will throw an interception inside of a minute left to seal it up. Oklahoma State versus TCU. This could be a trap game for Oklahoma State because TCU has pulled off some upsets in the past. However, I like these Cowboys to win. I just think that the offense by Mason Rudolph is going to really pay off. So I like Oklahoma State to win by at least double digits in the range of 10 to 14 points. Now, Florida and LSU. Now, this was supposed to be played already, but they postponed it because of the Hurricane Matthew. But I just think LSU's going to win this game. I just feel like LSU's got more momentum right now than Florida does. Both these teams are coming off big wins. But I just think LSU is more to play for right now. I think LSU just has more momentum than Florida. Florida did lose their safety Marcus May for the season, so I like LSU to win this one. Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. I'm picking Notre Dame to pull off the upset only because this is basically saving Brian Kelly's job right now. So I think they're going to do the win for the giver mentality just in case that he's really done at the end of the year. That way they can have something positive to end the year on. Indiana versus Michigan. I'm picking Michigan to bounce back after the heartbreaking loss. I think Michigan comes out angry and dominates start to finish. I like Michigan to win 48-17. Although Indiana can put some points on the board, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening from Indiana. So I like Michigan to win big. Kansas State and Baylor, two teams that really need a win to just salvage the rest of the year. And Baylor's coming off just two humiliating losses in a row. Actually, three losses in a row, but two humiliating ones in a row. And they lost Seth Russell for the year. But I'm going to pick Kansas State to beat Baylor. I just think Baylor is they're just depleted right now. I mean, their season has just really gone up in flames the last several weeks. I mean, the players they wore those black jerseys to protest the Art Briles firing and losing Seth Russell for the year. It's just a mess for Baylor right now. I think Kansas State's going to take full advantage of that. USC and UCLA. I'm picking USC to win. However, the only reason why I'm talking about this game is there still a mental hangover from the upset win against Washington? And if not, if there isn't, USC will dominate. But if there is, UCLA could squeak in this game. Josh Rose may be up for the year, but their backup quarterback is really talented. He can find the open receivers. But I like USC to win in a shootout. All right, Ohio State versus Michigan State. Now, people expect Ohio State to rule in this game. And I honestly think they will. However, are the Buckeyes looking ahead to the game against the Wolverines the week after this week? Are they looking ahead to Michigan? Because basically what it is the winner of Ohio State and Michigan is going to get a spot in the playoff, it looks like. Or at least controls their own destiny for a spot in the playoff. So are they looking too far ahead? If they are, Michigan State can give them a run for their money, and by the time they realize that they've been looking too far ahead and they haven't focused on this game, that's going to be a big L. But I think Ohio State's going to win this game. I think they'll start off slow, but I think in the second half they'll pick it up. They're not going to win 62-3 again this week. Maybe they'll score 63 points, but maybe not but they'll give up some points. Michigan State's got so much to play for. They're just playing for pride, Michigan State is. So I like the Buckeyes to win. But don't expect it to be 62-3 again. Northwestern and Minnesota. I'm picking Minnesota to win. I think they're going to recover from that loss from Nebraska. Many think Minnesota could spoil Wisconsin's chances of the playoff. That could be a huge one next week. All right. Washington State and Colorado. This is a great matchup. I'm picking Washington to win this one because I think there's a lot more talented athletes. I think Washington State has just picked up the pace ever since the 0-2 start. I just haven't seen enough out of Colorado yet to prove to me that they're even deserving to be in a New Year's Six discussion. I just haven't seen enough out of Colorado yet this year, which is kind of sad because they're talented, but I just haven't seen enough out of them to prove that they can compete with the big boys. All right, finally, the game of the week, Oklahoma versus West Virginia. This is a great matchup because this is an elimination game for the cultural playoff. Because one of these teams is going to have to lose, and their chances of winning the national championship will be over. You would think that West Virginia has the momentum, considering it's a home game for them. However, Oklahoma, I've been saying all year long, ever since that TCU game, Oklahoma just hit their stride. Especially D.D. Westbrook, Baker Mayfield, those two, they've been the most deadly 1-2 punch in all of college football ever since that TCU game. It's just extremely deadly, and would not want to go up against it right now. And plus the running game of Shimon Perine and Joe Mixon. I mean, that's another deadly 1-2 punch. Oklahoma is one of the most deadly teams in all of college football right now. Probably one of the hottest teams in college football right now. And if they could eventually make it to the college football playoff, look for that TCU game to be the turning point in the year for them. I'm picking Oklahoma to beat West Virginia. It's going to be a nice close game. But it's going to be a huge marquee win for Oklahoma because they need another marquee win. They desperately need one. And I think this is going to be it. So I like Oklahoma to pull off the W. I think it's going to be really high scoring. I'm going to go with 52-45 in favor of the Sooners. Now, before I close the video, I also did ask out of the which top 4 team that lost this past weekend, whether it was Clemson, Michigan, or Washington. 5 of you voted, and 4 of you said Michigan. Another one said Clemson. Nobody says Washington, which was kind of anticipated because Washington, everyone knew if they lost just one game, they were out. So the thing is, realistically, I'll talk about it more on Tuesday when the rankings come out from the playoff committee. But either Clemson or Michigan can still make the playoff. In fact, I will guarantee that at least one of them will at least be in the top 4 by the championship Saturday. Because I don't think they're going to fall that far because they both lost on last-second field goals. And I think the one with the better chance of making the playoff is Michigan over Clemson. Because Michigan's played a much tougher schedule than Clemson has. Michigan has looked much more dominant than Clemson has this year. So I will guarantee you that either Clemson or Michigan will make the playoff still. Anyway, that's going to do it. I'll leave it with that. Like, subscribe to the channel. Let's get some more subscribers out there. Also, comment your thoughts on this weekend. You can comment your predictions below. Which teams are on upset alert heading into the weekend? Also, comment below who you think the top 4 should be. I think mine is Alabama, Ohio State, Louisville, and Wisconsin. I just think Wisconsin is going to be that 2-loss team that could sneak in. Because Wisconsin controls their own destiny right now. Anyway, I will leave you with that. Have a good day, everybody. I will see you next time.